Working with the dead, the ancestors. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. This is Taliesin McKnight. And today I'm going to talk about a very ancient practice and one that is practiced in many different magical traditions. Working with the ancestors and the dead. This is something that's practiced in many different traditions. It's popular in various indigenous cultures. It's practiced in Japan. It's practiced in a lot of African types of magic and traditions. It's practiced in European traditions, practiced across the world, working with the dead. So, Samhain is almost upon us. We are in the month of October. And this is a perfect time to begin to contemplate death and mortality. And also to begin perhaps working with the dead and the ancestors if we aren't already. So, what we have is a type of life cycle throughout the year. In the spring, we see birth, and in the summer, we see growth and maturity, and in the autumn, the leaves begin to turn. It's like gray hairs. And then the leaves fall off, and then we enter into a period of death. Insects seem to die off, everything, all the life, seems to die off. And if you're in the northern hemisphere at least. So, this period that we're entering into, in the British Isles they called it Samhain, and in Mexico they have the Day of the Dead, November 1st, and in Britain they have Samhain, which is a Day of the Dead, November 1st, but the new day begins at sunset, so it actually begins the evening of October 31st. And then in Voodoo, you have Fête Gede, which is a festival associated with spirits, associated with the dead, the Gede. So this is a perfect time to start visiting graveyards, to start connecting with loved ones. So it's actually very simple, It's good to have some an altar is a place of focus. We are surrounded in a world of material objects. And magic, although there are other forms of magic, often in magic what we have is a manipulation of material objects. The magical link is one of the classical, most universal tools within magic. The magical link, such as a piece of hair, fingernails, an object owned by somebody, things like that. Material objects are the magical link. In spirit magic, a lot of times we use the sigil of the spirit as a link with that spirit. So, quite simply, photographs, items that were owned by loved ones that have passed on. Let's say that you have grandpa's Zippo lighter sitting on a counter, or you have your grandmother's trinket. These objects may sometimes just be sitting there in the house collecting dust. You have grandfather's old billfold or wallet. Well, the ancestor altar is a great way to take these objects that just sit there, not really doing anything, and we could put it into a place of love. So if you have any objects that come from those who have passed on loved ones, those objects could form a type of magical link and be placed upon the ancestral altar. So when working with the spirit world, it's like going to a country that you're not too familiar with that country. It's good to go there with someone that's on the other side. To have someone on the other side that's rooting for you, someone on the other side that could help you. So it's good to make these types of connections. Now, something that should be addressed with ancestors, there's some people that may not get along with their family. There's some people that may be adopted. Any type of loved one that has passed on could be worked with in this way. Let's say you don't really get along with your family, or you're adopted, you don't really know your family lineage. Well, you could work with any kind of loved one that has passed on. A second thing that's often brought up is, what if they don't want to be contacted? Well, you're not forcing anyone to come and communicate. What you're doing is you're setting up an altar, you're placing items that belong to loved ones that have passed on, and you're giving an invitation. An invitation. It may be that loved ones would love to talk to you, but we're just not listening. So this is opening up an opportunity to begin to continue nurturing these connections and to keep having these connections. You don't have to work with an ancestor that you don't resonate with or you didn't get along with too well. This is something that you want to work with this person. And again, it doesn't have to be a family. It's someone you want to work with. And it's an invitation. The person on the other side could easily say no. So like I said, we're approaching Samhain, we're approaching this time of year, and this is a perfect time to think about death, because we can't run away from these things. Just like this circle around my head, behind my head here, we come full circle. We have to touch upon all different aspects. They're all different forms of death. And veneration of the dead and the ancestors is something that exists in every culture around the world. It's one of the most ancient practices that exists. So, it could be placed on the floor even. I mean, there really are no rules here. It could be a little nightstand, a little bookshelf. I recommend a white altar cloth and a couple of candles, some incense. Put any kind of old photographs of loved ones that have passed on. And again, they're not just collecting dust in a box somewhere. Put these photographs at your ancestor altar. Any kind of items that belong to loved ones that passed on. Again, these form the magical link. So what I'm doing here is I'm explaining kind of the technology of magic and kind of how this works. The idea that we can connect with an energy through the object. It is the magical link. So if we have items that belong to loved ones that passed on that just sit there, this is a perfect way to give a little love to those objects. So, working with the ancestors. Hello, Agumong. How are you doing today? Agumong says, I'm watching you live from Ghana. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. It is an honor to have you joining me here. Blessings to you, my friend. So, at its most basic, having some type of an altar with objects that belong to loved ones that have passed on, perhaps photographs, things that connect with them. And I think, it's good to work with them once a week. It's good to nurture these connections, but also put a little bit of a boundary. It's very important to have a balance. So I think once a week is perfect. Saturday, I think, is ideal for working with the ancestor altar. Once a week on Saturday. First of all, it's easy to remember to do the practice because it's easy to forget if you don't have a particular day. But Saturday, you always know, it's Saturday, it's time to have the working, light some candles, light some incense, speak to your dead, like you would in life. Tell them your hopes and dreams, tell them what's going on in your life, ask for guidance, ask for light, tell them that you love them, and spend a little time in silence to receive. Listen to the subtle impressions, being careful not to fall into illusion that thoughts in our head or anything that any little thing is it's the ancestor speaking to us. You know, imagine if you're dead and somebody calls you up, you know, and you're not really saying anything, you're just sitting there, you know, and the other person's like, yes, Grandpa, you're absolutely right. And you're like, what are you talking about? I didn't say anything. Yeah, you're right, I should quit that job. Grandpa's like, hold on now, I didn't say quit the job. And you're like, thanks, Grandpa, you know? So that's the importance of not letting, it's a balancing act, not letting our imagination get away with us. We may be thinking things that's not from them, you know? There's nothing more irritating than miscommunication. But being open, you know? So, I recommend Saturdays for several reasons. For one thing, Saturday is governed by Saturn. And Saturn, if we look in Agrippa, we look in the Key of Solomon, some of these classical texts, Saturn is associated with the dead and with death and for communication with the dead. So you can use any day of the week, whatever's, let's say that, well, I work Saturdays and it's really busy. Well, then pick a Monday or a Wednesday for communication. There are no rules. It's just a recommendation. I think Saturdays are perfect. You always remember, oh, it's Saturday, it's time to do this. And it doesn't have to be a long, elaborate working. Light a couple of candles, light some incense, speak to the dead. And those that you want to work with, and just tell them what's going on in your life, and just close your eyes and just be receptive to any impressions. Watch your dreams. I talk about dreams quite a bit in these videos lately, because dreams are the other side of life. I often talk about how every day we have a life cycle. When we wake up, that's like a birth. We have our activity and we're at the peak of our day. That's like maturity. And then at the end of the day, we begin to wind down. We sit back, relax. Perhaps we think about what we did that day. This is old age. And then when you lie down, you appear to die. You're not moving physically anymore. You appear to lie down and close your eyes, and then you enter into another world, the world of dreams. So our daily life cycle mimics, our daily life. That cycle mimics kind of a full life cycle. So dreams are the in-between state. It is the other side of life. Oftentimes, the things that we experience in life come out in dreams, like a mirror. And perhaps some of the things in our dream life can begin to peek through a little bit into our everyday life. So dreams are a great place and across cultures, dreams are said to be a place that people often come into contact with loved ones. Whether or not it be objectively real is up for each person to decide. So like I said, I do a lot of repetition in my videos, but it's intentional. Because repetition drills it into the head. A simple altar once a week, light some candles, some incense, food offerings are traditional. Trick or treat, Halloween. These spooks, like they're ghosts, representing spirits of the dead, knock on your door, and you better have some food offering, candy, or they're going to play tricks on you and be mischievous. So this perhaps goes back to an ancient tradition of leaving food out for the spirits during this time. In the Mexican Day of the Dead, they'll leave food offerings. They'll leave food actually at graveyards and stuff. So food offerings are very useful. Food offerings, it's recommended not to add salt. This is actually an old hoodoo tradition that I've always followed. The idea is that salt can somehow inhibit the spirit partaking of the essence of the food. Whether or not that's actually true, I recommend laying off the salt for the food offerings. Put a little tea light candle on the food offerings. Offer things that they loved in life. Let's say your grandpa liked to smoke Marlboro cigarettes, but you don't like cigarette smoke. Well, that's fine. You don't have to light it. Just put a Marlboro, you know. Once a week, set him a Marlboro and a cup of coffee, you know. People are like, well, how could they partake of it? It's just a tradition, you know. It seems to work well. There may be that there's some type of energetic essence that they could partake. Perhaps the smell of the coffee can bring them back. And it's also a way to kind of draw and allure them. The smell of their favorite coffee, the smell of their favorite cigarette. You know, you don't have to burn it, just the smell of the tobacco. Graveyard dirt is a very powerful magical link. If you're able to go into the graveyard and draw some graveyard dirt, for this, I think it's good to bring some type of an offering, the idea of purchasing the dirt, the idea of an exchange. So, some coins, a shot of whiskey, perhaps a potted plant, you know. This is one good way to like sneak away some graveyard dirt and not look suspicious. You can go to the store, buy a little potted plant, and bring a little shovel, and then you can go to the grave. I recommend leaving some coins at the gate, knocking at the gate of the cemetery, leave an offering at the gate. So the gatekeepers. Some believe that there are gatekeepers at the cemetery. Perhaps they're not even human. There's some types of beings that are to keep the living out and the dead in. It's good to appease the gatekeepers. It's an interesting tradition. Whether you follow it or not, I recommend knock at the gates of the cemetery if you're interacting with graveyards at all. Leave some coins at the gate or some type of offering. Ask permission to enter. Go in, you know, let's say you bring a little potted plant. You don't have to. Speak to your dead person. Tell them that you would like to bring some graveyard dirt to connect with them. Dig up some dirt, leave a coin. You could use a potted plant if you want to go through the trouble, and then you're not left with a hole in the ground. You could put the plant there, you know, and you kind of have an excuse in case anyone has questions. You'd be like, I'm putting a plant. But at its most basic, ask permission at the grave. It could be a handful of dirt. Put it in a jar. Drop some coins. Kind of cover it up. Thank the spirit, and you have some graveyard dirt. This can go sitting on your altar as a powerful link. You've got a little piece of their grave on your altar. So graveyard dirt could also be used. Let's say that you want your grandma to help you ace this job interview. You could sprinkle a little of that graveyard dirt on the job application or around the job site. So there are all kinds of practical ways that you could work with the dead. You could even do like some candle magic, petitioning them to help you out. Now, some people do try, you know, experimenting with magic with the dead, you know, asking for specific things and lighting some candles to them with food offerings. Some people would never do such a thing. It's up for each individual person to decide what works or doesn't work for him or her. So, all in all, I think it's good to work with the dead. It doesn't have to be someone in your family. It could be a long friend that passed away. It could just be anyone that you love that has passed on. Let's say you don't really like your family. Let's say that you're adopted. Once again, any kind of loved one that has passed on could serve as a type of ancestor. And also, it is asking them to interact. You're not forcing them. So if they don't want to interact, they don't have to. I think it's a very good practice. White altar cloth, couple of candles, incense, once a week. I think Saturdays are perfect. Or if you don't want to do this all the time, at least do it around Halloween or Samhain. Around this time of year, at least, visit the cemetery, leave some flowers. at your dead loved ones' graves and kind of contemplate death in its own. The idea of death and of endings and purgation, every ending is a new beginning. So kind of contemplating this kind of putrefaction within our own lives, you know. Maybe put the death card out and kind of contemplate it a little bit. The very fact that it is an uncomfortable subject means that it's something maybe we ought to bring in a little fresh air and kind of examine a little bit. I think at least once a year it's good to think about death, about the uncomfortable things. So, I mean, that's basically it. I really, I'm working with my ancestor altar, and I think that it's very good practice. Light a couple of candles, incense, maybe make some food, put a little tea light on the food, no salt, and then once a week do this. Just sit down, talk to them like you would in life. And just tell them what's been going on, your hopes and dreams, and then I always recommend an active part of the ritual, which is you talking. The second part is silence and listening. Listen for the subtle impressions, not necessarily taking any impression as coming from them. It could also be the mind. And then watch your dreams. So, so that's basically it. And that is working with the dead and the ancestor altar. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Agyamong said you were great. Well, thank you so much. You're very sweet. And thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate y'all. And thank you so much. And I will see y'all in the next video. Thank you. If the button will hit. Taliesin McKnight bloopers. There we go. Alright. Have a great day, y'all. See you in the next video.